Last episode, I did the unthinkable. I built an entire base underwater. So today, I want to put this base to use and progress a little bit further through the mod pack. And that means we're going to have to sluice a few other things and potentially reconfigure the entirety of our automation system. Now to do this, I am probably going to utilize one of these medium-sized rooms. I think this is going to be big enough to handle basically our sluice automation and also allow us to automate two other components that we're going to need that are going to require lava. Now, according to the quest in the steaming ahead section, I've got to make myself some Netherrack, which we can farm definitely from the structures in the Nether, in which I did, but I want to automate the production of it. To do that though, we're going to have to make basalt. Once we have basalt automated, it does look like that can then be crushed up. Once it's crushed up, well, then it can be sleuthed again. And that should allow us, as you can see right here, this should allow us to get Netherrack with a gold mesh or a diamond mesh. Now, getting lava is quite simple, but how do we obtain ice? That actually looks like it can be done with the goo from Just Dire Things, actually, to make regular ice. And then we can use that ice again, and it looks like we can convert it directly up to packed ice and so on and so forth. Now, getting the ice, if we wanted to break it at different tiers, we were actually given a pickaxe inside of the quest, I think in the first chapter, as a reward. Underneath the Just Dire Things. And this is the icebreaker, which we got, that has silk touch on it. So I guess we can go ahead and check this out. I'm assuming I can put this right here, give this a fuel block, and it should start converting this water into ice over time. There we go. So now we have ice, and I should be able to just leave it. And before we know it, it should turn into blue ice, which we're going to need to use the good old-fashioned vanilla method of generating basalt, it looks like. But I was able to see this. Yes, we are going to have to break the actual packed ice because we need the higher tier of the actual goo in order for us to turn this directly into the blue ice. And beautiful, our last few pieces of the packed ice. So with this, I will compact it up, get ourselves some blue ice, and we can put this to use to generate some, well, of that beautiful basalt that we're also going to have to crush. But interesting, it does want me to have a little bit of nether quartz first before we can actually make the block breaker, but you know what I could use instead of the block breaker it suggests? I won't really be needing this setup for a while, so you know what? I might actually just take our modular router with the breaker that is inside of it, and well, just change the configuration that is inside. Yeah, for now. Now I'm just doing a little bit of thinking here, and I think we're only going to need about 5 of the sluice for right now. And that means I can have my production for all the materials happening on the wall over here, and maybe the wall over here we can have the production of the these materials for the Netherrack stuff handled. I will say though, it is really hard to just like call something a definitive setup, especially as we get better things as we go, meaning our automations are really going to start to expand. Now, one cool thing that I do know is that lava being sent into this can be really easy. We just need a jar and a singular cobblestone generator. And what I'm thinking is we slap down some lava, preferably not like this. I'm going to have to definitely enclose the side so that way this does not happen again, but you get the idea. There we go. That's much better. But yeah, you get the idea. This is going to go here. It's going to create the cobblestone underneath, just like we've set up for all of our lava before. We're going to use the jar automators on the top. And then I'm going to use a iron version of the cobblestone generator. This should fill both of them with lava, but this one might have to fill up first, fill up the internal inventory before it starts pushing cobble to this one. Ultimately, it should send to both. So now it's basalt crushing time, and I'm thinking we can set this up on the wall just like I have planned for all of the other ones. The basalt should be able to be generated here. We are going to need to crush it, so might as well get it crushed up. And I'm thinking if I place it like this, it will allow it to have the input on the left and the output on the right. And these don't require any power, so that should be just fine. We have to give it another inventory though. For example, this drawer. And then over here is where we're probably going to set up our modular router. Now I've got to figure out exactly how I want this modular router to work, because this has to be set up in a very particular way to allow it to even produce the materials in the first place. And so I'm thinking if I put the modular router right here, for example, we can have our breaker essentially break from the bottom. So we can have it say, hey, look down, break, make sure it's on blacklist where there is no items in there. It'll break anything that's there. And then I want the sender module to send to the left. That's going to send any item that it breaks over to the left. Now, in doing this, we should be able to generate the material right here. So I can put like the blue ice right there. And I'm almost positive the soul soil can go here on the bottom. And then we just need the lava to be like right about here, a source block of lava. And that source block of lava, we could trapdoor or what have you. For right now, I'm going to use glass. And it needs to flow in here. This needs to be the flow source. So if I place it here, I don't think that would work. We can try. It does work, actually. Okay, good. So that means I can have this here and just leave it right there connected. And you can see right now, this is producing what we want. I could probably put some trapdoors here that look really nice. And there we go. We just now need to pipe this over here. And I tell you what, I do love my trapdoors. So I might actually cover this whole thing in trapdoors just to make it look a little bit nicer. Look at that. So now I can use these item pipes from Oritech and just have that get sent right down into here. And that will start our first automation. I just right click there and you can see this is now started and it has a chance of producing Netherrack. So now we need to take a container and somehow get this Netherrack into this, but it also has to be crushed, right? Okay, now hear me out. This is going to be a really janky way of doing this, but I want to filter out the Netherrack here, and we have these Oritech pipes that don't have filters, as far as I know as of right now. So how can I actually use these pipes and filter? Well, I'm assuming that these pipes do not carry contents in them. For example, if I place this down, it has nowhere to go. It's not going to internally buffer this, right? There's like 13 in there. I do this. You can see it's not taking anything. So I am under the assumption that I can then use a drawer to filter the item input. So how do you do that, you might ask? Well, if we, for example, give this a place to go, like up here, and we go, okay, I want these spruce to head this direction. I should be able to use a crusher to do this operation. Now I want to stay away from this cobblestone gen as it'll send items in. So that's why I'm raising this up one, but we can say, okay, we'll send to this container right here. Or actually it would probably be even better if it goes right to the top, right? So send to this barrel, but only allow Netherrack in. And we can do that by putting the Netherrack in and then using the configuration tool to lock this drawer. Now, the only thing that can ever go into this single inventory container is that material right there, the Netherrack. So with that knowledge, if I place this, that is then going to crush it and it's going to try and send to an inventory that's adjacent to it. For example, right there, right? That's crushed basalt. I think it has basalt in the internal buffer. Possibly. Yeah, there it goes. So it had crushed basalt in the internal buffer. I think because this is actually sitting to it, that's why. Okay, so let's just disable that. There's just more things connected. Let's see. Then we just need to pipe this out. I think that's as straightforward as it gets. And then we'll pipe that directly into here. And now we're automatically crushing the Netherrack. This right here is pretty solid for that automation there. Pretty solid. Oh yeah, we just gotta watch where things are connected because that's just dumping everything into here. We don't want that happening. So yeah, I did say janky, and honestly, this is pretty janky, but you know what it's getting us right now? Quartz. Yes. So we can use the method that it recommended. However, by using what I had set up, it didn't cost us any original quartz to have a breaker automatically running. honestly, I would use the modular router one over the basic one from Dyer's because it's not going to drop the items into the world and we're not going to have to worry about those issues. But you know what? I am going to make it just to simply satisfy this quest. Oh, never mind. It actually doesn't technically require you to use that breaker. That's kind of nice. But with that quartz and having quartz set up like that, oh, this is going to be super, super nice. There's honestly so many recipes that just rely on quartz, including applied energistics. Now, I have discovered a really large flaw that is going to really burden the Oritech pipes and my want to use them. And that is, if this buffer slot right here, the first inventory slot, gets blocked and it tries to send something somewhere, you'll notice right away that it is no longer checking any other inventory slot in this chest. Very unfortunate. And this is really going to limit my ability to use this. Before long, we are going to get much, much better pipes. And yes, I know I could be using integrated dynamics pipes, but I wanted to try something different. So how exactly is this quartz going to allow us to progress? Well, this is going to inch our way into the Oritech to get our first foundation of actual power started. It will eventually allow us to make steel. Yes, finally. And once we have a little bit of steel, that will allow us to get into mechanism and a bunch of other opportunities, really opening up the mod pack. Before we do this, however, we are going to need a couple of things, and this is going to kind of get us there. We need to alloy several different things, and the way that we are going to alloy and also make fused quartz and potentially get some silicon down the road is we are going to need to make a Tinker's like forge. And yes, I did say Tinker's as in Tinker's construct, because Productive Metalworks essentially adds in the Tinker's construct foundry or smeltery, whatever you want to call it. Now, don't mind all of the crazy textures. This basic thing that we're going to need are these fire bricks, and we need ourselves a foundry controller. We're also going to need a foundry drain, and we're going to need a foundry tank. These are going to allow us to form the actual foundry along with the foundry bricks, which look like this, the black fire bricks. And then we're going to need a casting table and also a casting basin and definitely a foundry tap. And something that distinguishes this from the actual Tinker's one is we're also going to need a liquid heating coil. Well, actually, we're going to need more than one of them. And this is actually covered in the first quest, which does lay out for you every little bit that you're going to need in order to make a basic setup for this. And yeah, we're going to need 9 of those to lay out on the ground. Right over here in my pretty grow area room, I think this is actually where I'm going to set up the automation for this. So the forge. So right here, I'm going to clear out the floor. Actually, I want to raise this up. I kind of want this a little bit raised. So let's go ahead and do a 3x3 that looks just like this of the heating coils. And then we're going to essentially surround this with these bricks, just like you would an old school Tinker's construct build. So just like so, you're going to wrap this whole thing around. And then we really only need to worry about a couple of different points to get this to actually turn on. And with the outside structure in on the front, we got an airdrop incoming. We're going to place the controller right here in the front. And then I got to make sure to remove all of the interior blocks. And then I'll put the tank on the side, which will need to be filled with something like lava, for example. And then the drain, which is how we're going to get everything out, just like that. Ooh, there's a fancy animation for the bottom. There we go. Just like that, it is now technically automated. Well, kind of, right? Because I do want there to be lava that goes into here constantly. So I'm thinking cobblestone possibly, or having this automated with lava. That way it can automatically send into here. So I'll put an automator on the top, and we just have to get a little trapdoor area filled with lava right there. Perfect. And all should be well. That should automatically keep that filled up. And I think we can hopper directly into the foundry controller if we want to automate this in any way. Now, to get the casts out, we are going to have a casting over here and a casting table here. This is the basin. And just 2 foundry taps like this, and these can be controlled with redstone. Now, I of course love to automate this. This is such an easy thing to set up. We'll place a barrel here and a barrel here, and yes, these do have inventories, so you can use something like a hopper, for example, and have a hopper going directly in like so, and just replace these. That way, when a cast is formed, we can actually just flip a lever and just let it continue to cast out. Now, I think I have enough bricks to actually make this a little bit bigger. So yeah, you can extend this up. And whenever you extend it up, by the way, it's just going to give you more slots over here, allowing you to put more in at once. Now we are going to need a few plates, and to be able to get this, we are going to need 4 cast iron for each individual cast. That includes gear casts and all kinds of other stuff. And the quest is wanting our first 2 casts to be a plate cast and an iron cast. So this is going to cost, like I said, 4 each. So I'm going to put 8 in there to cover that. That's going to cook up pretty quick, actually. And down here we have the amount in total. And so just like you would expect from good old classic Tinkers, you right click that and that generates the cast. Now it does burn up the item, but now we have a permanent cast that we can use any time. And same for the iron, we'll go ahead and cast out like this. There's a couple of other casts we're going to need down the road, but we'll get to those when we get to them. As of right now, the main one we're going to need is the ingots. And we're technically going to need to produce 2 different types of ingots: electrum, which is going to be an alloy that we form inside of here, with gold and silver, should be in equal parts, and then also invar, which should be nickel and iron. Now these are not in equal parts. It's going to be 2 iron to 1 nickel. And when it comes to operations like this and doing it in bulk, a hopper is definitely going to be a good idea, or like a pipe in a barrel. Doesn't really matter in that regard. For example, first and foremost, let's go ahead and do silver and gold. We're going to put them both in, but I don't exactly want this automated just yet. What I can do though is I can get them ready for automation by placing in this clock and then turning it off. So yes, I'm going to put the silver back in, but this right here will allow these to technically run. And I believe it does need a redstone pulse in order to activate, unlike like the new Tinkers where you can just use a lever and give it a signal. And I mean, this still even has the same interface, right? So these fluids are building up in here, and the fluid you click on is actually the fluid that will move to the bottom. And whenever you do that, that's the fluid that can then be cast out. Now, some other alloys I'm going to need to maintain is copper and molten quartz. And this is going to be required whenever we start to generate some power, hopefully soon. But there's still several other things we're going to have to work towards. For example, getting a coke oven up and running. Now we're also going to need fused quartz. And the first way that we go about getting fused quartz is by taking glass and, well, dropping 4 quartz total worth of quartz onto it in molten form. Now we're almost ready. All I have to do is let that alloy up. And then while I'm waiting on that, I might as well get my first coke oven up and running. And this right here is going to be how we are going to do that. We're going to take some of those magma blocks that we got from adventuring, and we are going to use these magma droplets to be able to actually make the brick here. I can now also make clay a little bit easier by using a regular tempered jar with just some sand and gravel in it. And I fill this up with water, and this is just producing 32 clay every time it does an operation. That's really, really good, which is also going to help me in this process. And 27 of these is what we need to make an entire smeltery. So just a couple more clay, 1 more, there we go. And then we're also going to need a hammer, a good old fashioned engineer's hammer to be able to activate this. Oh, and we're probably going to want some coal and preferably a tank. I think a tank is a good idea. If you put this inside of its buffer, it's actually really, really cool what it can do. So let's head on over here. And I think on this side, yeah, I'll just go ahead and set up a very, very simple blast furnace, or sorry, coke oven. There we go. They're both exactly the same. Thankfully, this is not how we're going to be making steel. We're actually going to be using Oritech to make steel, which will be pretty darn cool. But there we go. We right click and immersive engineering. Here we go. So I'm going to put this in here. That's going to start turning this into coke. But first, I recommend putting a tank in here so that way the creosote will go into the tank instead of its internal buffer, and you won't have to really worry about backing up for a while. And it'll also make crafting treated wood planks so much easier down the road. Now this next step might seem a little bit odd, but we do need to crush up some netherrack, and our early method of crushing this is going to involve a cutting board. Yes, a cutting board. If we place this on here, not our shield, if we place the actual quartz on here and we hit it with a hammer, it then crushes it. It says watch your fingers, and it turns it into quartz dust. Then we can actually smelt this in a furnace, I do believe, just like so, and we can get ourselves some silicon. Now, how can we automate this? Well, you can technically automate this, and it's not too difficult to do. You can use a dispenser, for example, and the dispenser can right click, and then you can use a hopper right here to funnel in the quartz. And then you just need a redstone signal, just like that. And there it goes. It's technically semi-automated and makes the worst noise ever. And a little boop, and there we go. That'll all be smelted up before we know it. Now, once we have ourselves some silicon, this is where the game is really going to start to ramp up, because this grants us access to a couple of different things. For example, getting our first power setup and then moving us into a foundry, which will allow us to make steel. And like I said, steel is incredibly powerful. Ooh, by the way, airdrop just landed. Definitely going to try and grab all of the stuff I can here. Glyph of invisibility. Ooh. Oh. And we just get given a mage spellbook. Wait. This is the mage version of the spellbook. No way. No way that they, what? What? Okay, that was an incredibly nice gift to be given. We have the ability now to just insta break things. Like, I was definitely holding off on crafting the spellbook, but I mean, if you just give it to me, I mean, I might as well use it. Now, I do want to customize it a little bit. I'll add some light blue dye in here to give it a nice ocean vibe. So now the reason you probably actually clicked on this video in the first place, to learn how we can actually set up the Oritech power generation. And I'm going to tell you, this is a very interesting process. We are going to need a magmatic boiler. We're also going to need the steam boiler add-on, and we're going to need a steam engine. This is just the basics that are going to be required here, as each of these machines are also going to require a few other things. For example, they are going to require some basic machine cores. So perfect, magmatic boiler ready to go, just like that. Definitely got to get that steam boiler add-on and then the steam engine. So some other things we're also going to need: lava and water. So now we get to start and set these machines up. Now, something really cool about these machines, as you can see right here, they require you to extend the machine. Once you have placed in the corresponding core, you can then right click it. It will form the actual machine and has the coolest animations I've ever seen in a mod. Now, I do want to set this up to potentially add more in the future, but for right now, let's go ahead and place in that boiler. And we're going to place the core on the top, and I'm going to place it facing the opposite direction than you'd probably expect. That's because we are going to need to place on the backside our add-on that is going to change the way that this works. Because by default, if you just give this lava, it will generate a little bit of energy, but what we're going to really need is to send this water and then to pipe out steam. I'm thinking over here, I can have a tank that has 2 floppers that are going to go into it from this side, and we just have to provide it with, well, infinite water sources on here. So the way I want to do that is by placing these just like so, so that way I can feed a trapdoor system and get water placed right on top of this. And with a little boop here and boop there, we now have an infinite water source here and there. That should be more than enough water to carry us for a while. Now, getting the fluids to this container, well, it's just going to require a fluid pipe. And this one I'm going to run over here as well, except this actually needs to be running into the boiler add-on itself. So there we go. Beautiful. And we can then turn this on. That is going to accept that. And we turn this on, and voila, we should now be producing steam. But it's probably going to be best if we add an efficiency add-on, I believe, or an acceleration add-on. We did get both, I think. We got an efficiency add-on, so I might be able to add that onto here. But yeah, essentially those ports allow us to add modifiers just like you've seen there. And this is where the fun happens, right? This is how we're actually going to get power, and that is by using a steam engine. Now, thankfully, we can see the orientation kind of highlighted whenever we go to place this down. I'm going to try and place this down sort of in the center of the room, right about here. Seems kind of weird, but if we click this, we can then see where we need to place our machine cores. And so once I get them placed in and right click, oh boy, this thing really starts to shine and we're able to really see what this looks like. Now, after seeing this, I'm noticing I might have this actually placed in backwards. I kind of want the blue inputs. I think the blue inputs, or at least in my brain, blue means input. I kind of want it to be placed. Actually, it may not matter. I want it to be placed on the back side for the blue, so that way we can pipe into the blue side. And then the red would be like the output, or for example, like the power output or anything else. So yeah, I think that is going to work. So to get the steam out, basically we just need to pipe out of here. And I'm going to do that just by running this pipe directly into this. Now this is also going to produce water. So as soon as I turn this on, that should start sending steam, and we're now charging and generating power. Like you notice the steam is up, but it is generating water, so we have to do something with that water. And I kind of recommend, since we're producing water infinitely, just go ahead and void it. Just send that pesky water directly into a trash can, and you can do that by doing this. So now we don't have to worry about that water building up anymore. Man, though, I tell you what, something that feels missing, just a little bit of ambient sound from these mods. Like this is making sound, but this doesn't for some reason. Now, of course, this is the basics of generating power, and we're probably going to need more of these technically scaled up early on to really get enough power. But I mean, as of right now, just judging off of how much steam it's producing at the moment, we're generating about 160 RF per tick. Not actually that bad whatsoever, but we could put more steam into this and maybe optimize it if we had more boilers or we had more speed upgrades on here. All of that is stuff we're going to have to work towards and kind of figure out. But as of right now, we have power, baby, and that means we get to start playing around with more tech. But that, my friends, is going to have to wait until next episode, because today we are essentially all out of time. But I hope you did enjoy today's episode, and hopefully you learned something new, whether that was about Oritech or about the Productive Metalworks mod. I hope that you found something interesting, and man, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. So be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. Also, join the Discord or check me out over on Twitch, twitch.tv/ChosenArchitect. I can't advertise that enough. I do love hanging out with you guys over there, so definitely check out both of those places. And well, with that, it's now time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Neber. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Thank you all so very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, thanks for watching.